One and only John Gooden, who was back on comms on Saturday. Long overdue. It was great to have him. Longtime listener, viewer of the show. I hope he's in the bath right now. Is he? Let's find out. No, he's not in the bath. John, this is a hotel room.
This is a hotel room. First of all, you were singing.
Yes.
Can we do this? Na 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 na. Tommy Aspinall.
Tommy Aspinall.
And then you said something about being on fire.
Yeah.
Jack Shaw's on fire.
Yes, on fire.
Yeah, see what we've done?
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Where are you?
Oh, dude, I've got a story for you.
Okay.
I'm in Spain.
Okay.
Without my wife, but with my daughter. My wife we got to the gates to board the plane, and there was a problem with her passport. Something because of Brexit now and the European not being in the European Union, they need a certain amount of months. It wasn't expired. So it was a very emotional thing when my wife's had to turn back. She's now trying to get an emergency passport processed. And I have to look after a 3-year-old. What's happening?
Wait a second. Are you
unbelievable?
So to break the fourth wall here for a second, I had to switch around the times. I double booked. It was a whole mess. And you were telling me, I'm on vacation, dinner. Part of me thought you were taking the piss, as they say. You're literally just with your daughter in a hotel room. And say, by the way, the fact that you're even doing the show now means a lot. You could have told me to F off. You're busy right now. You've got a lot on your hands.
There's going to be all kinds of judgment now, isn't there, on many levels. But it's cost me $20 to get Sing 2 on her brand new Amazon Kindle. So if something bursts out into song, it would be beautiful as well. People would want to sign my daughter at just short of 4 years of age, but you know what it is. That's what it will be.
Amazing. Wow. I can't even imagine what that was like. You're at the gate with your poor wife. Oh, there she is. Hello.
It's awful. The whole thing. She's in tears. And anyway, it's just, honestly, right now with the way things are, like I'm not even surprised. It's just been, the last few years have just been so bonkers. But I'm happy to be having a positive conversation with you about some other stuff.
Okay. Well, God bless. Thank you for doing this and good luck. Let's talk about Saturday. By the way, I was trying to think, and I think I know the answer. When was the last time you did play-by-play for UFC? It's been a while now.
14 months ago.
Golly.
Chiesa Magni.
Oh, January of 2021 in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that like? I mean, life, and especially this job, right, where we talk in front of a microphone, it's all about reps, right? You do it multiple times, a week, a month. You feel better about yourself. 14 months on the sideline is a very long time. Did you feel rusty? Did you feel nervous? What were the feelings?
Going into it, I was really nervous. I challenge anyone to try and do their job after they've taken a 2-week holiday, 2-week vacation, and then just get back to it. You're always rusty. And I think the first couple of fights, we had some technical difficulties which didn't help, and I think I got a little tongue-tied. But truth be told, I was in really bad shape with my prep and my notes going into the Saturday. Friday ended up being a much bigger day for me than originally planned. And I'm really happy for it, by the way. It was just a few things came at me in different directions, and therefore it robbed me of some prep time. And also I've been doing a bunch of stuff, which I'd love to talk to you about, for UFC Fight Pass, where I've been delivering some documentary style films. And I was just trying to get them all out this week just gone. And I was just going over and over edits, and they're 40-minute films, some of them. And I overcooked it. I put too much on my plate. And then on Saturday, I was just a very hectic, erratic, not normally me type dude. And I apologize to my broadcast colleagues, Mr. Michael Bisping and Paul Felder, because they probably looked at me and thought, what is this nutter doing? Like, why is he like that? But I didn't even have my notes in place, like 20 minutes before the broadcast. So the fact that it came together the way that it did, I'm actually really proud of myself, because I think a few years ago I'd have imploded. But like nothing after what's gone before me over the last few years, I really don't think you can. It's going to take more than that to tip me over the edge.
Will you go back and watch yourself? Will you watch the broadcast?
I watched the Open, and I actually remembered it to be better than what it actually was. It wasn't as good as I thought it had been. Yeah, the rehearsal was abysmal, and I didn't really even have my script. I just didn't have any of my stuff down, but it sort of came to me in the moment. I think I got through it. Again, a couple of little slips here and there, but I'll give myself a break on that one after 14 months on the sidelines.
Do you hope, are there any plans of being a little more, I'm not trying to get you in trouble here or anything, but, getting a little more active with the calls, with the assignments? I know obviously the last year was weird, but things are changing a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, not change. No, I mean, listen, I'd love to do it more and more, right? That's my ultimate, like the job title I'm most proud of is MMA commentator, UFC commentator. That's the job title that I am most proud of. And probably, if I'm honest, everything hangs off of that. If I didn't have that gig with the UFC, I wouldn't probably be producing gigs for them. I wouldn't be working with UFC Europe on some social stuff like Fight Day Focus. I wouldn't have this deal with UFC Fight Pass. So it's just so odd that it's the thing that I do the least of. And yeah, but it holds so much importance. So this year, hopefully, it's not as much as I thought that I would do at the beginning of the year, but that's not on the UFC, Ariel. That's just a product of circumstance still. Like I'm in Spain now and everyone's still wearing masks. I just went to the buffet and like people were, excuse me, sir, get back to your table, put a mask on. I'm like, Jesus, it feels like 6 months ago. So I have to respect that the world isn't as it is in the UK. I'm not sure what it's like in North America, but it is what it is. So I will roll with the punches. I will continue to do what I need to do in different areas of the business and just keep trying to represent this beautiful sport and have fewer moments. But if they're like the London one, then it makes me feel better.
When you call the first fights, like when do you start to feel like you're in a groove? The first fight was a quick one, Mokaev. But when do you start to feel like, okay, it's like riding a bike. I'm back in the groove. I got a few of the cobwebs out.
Yeah, honestly, I was pretty surprised, but it's one of those jobs. I've had a lot of jobs over the years, and there is no other job, nothing I do in my life where I'm more present than I am in play-by-play commentary for the UFC, because there's so much stuff going on. I've spoken about how I have 200 pieces of paper in the broadcast with me because there's so many elements. It is a marathon broadcast. And you've got to be dialed in. And we have a fantastic production team behind that. Mike Ricci was my producer on a weekend, and coordinating producer Zach Candito, who saved the day for me on the final hour with some stuff that I was having difficulty with my notes. They're there for us. They want to see us succeed. We're just the spearhead. They help a lot of the stuff behind that, and it just builds it up and builds it up. And they're so well oiled. It's just whether or not that rust was going to exist right at the sharp end. But I think I got through it well enough. And the night was just impossible to have a bad show, I think.
When was the last time, if ever, that you did commentary with Michael Bisping? Was that the first time?
No, I did one with Bisping and Felder. And I think it was the Figueiredo-Benavidez card, potentially. It wasn't supposed to be, but there was a conflict of schedule with Hardy was supposed to be coming over or something, and they got it messed up. And Bisping, he jumped in on a final hour, and so yeah, that was the second time. That was then the first time. This was the second time.
To call a card like that with the UK legend, right, who had that great moment. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it was really special, and I made a point. Michael doesn't know this, but I really wanted to walk out to the broadcast position with him and just see how all the fans reacted. And I put a post up on my Instagram. It's in my carousel. I mean, it's not a grand thing necessarily, but you can just see he's our front guy, and his wife was there as well. And everyone was just buzzing to see him enter that arena. And I was aware that this was the first time that he'd ever commentated a card in the UK. The last time we were there, I had the privilege of announcing his induction into the Hall of Fame or queuing it up there at the O2. All of these things are really important to me, Ariel. I'm, as a UK MMA guy, this stuff isn't lost on me. We're still such a young sport. The work that we're all doing I keep saying to a bunch of the fighters, it is for the next generation almost. But Bisping's done so much already. He's almost like the very first sort of generation. And you've got to tip your cap to these guys.
I do believe you were there in Dublin in 2014, right? You were calling that card, Diego Brandao, Conor McGregor. This card this past Saturday has drawn a lot of comparisons to that one, how it was a bunch of local guys, if you will, and then it kept building to this crescendo. Did you feel, I mean, obviously Ireland isn't London to you, Dublin isn't London, but did you see the similarities? Did it feel familiar to that card back in 2014?
Yeah, I often get asked what my favorite calls were, favorite events, things of that nature. And I sometimes struggle just because I've got a bad memory. But the one that always was just an obvious choice was that 2014 night in Dublin. Now I've got another one, and it's easy association, right? Being in Ireland and obviously now in the UK, London. Some of the stuff that I've done out in Australia, I've been really fortunate to go to Australia a few times. It was epic with Hooker and Felder as well. That was something else. So I am lucky to be one of the international broadcasters that gets to travel around to the more niche markets where the fans just so hungry and they go, full beans when the UFC comes to town.
Hooker Felder, was that the last time you called a card in front of a full arena? Because that was February.
I think it was, Yeah. And the interesting thing was after that, of course, it was a wonderful occasion, wonderful fight. I got to go to this beautiful island. I've forgotten what it's called, like Waiheke or something. Please, the Kiwis, don't come down on me if I've got that wrong. But I went there with Dave Letherby, who's a quality judge, mixed martial arts judge, and Mark Goddard, two guys that I grew up on the scene with. And we went out to this little island and hung out all day. And it was just a really lovely way to finish off that fight night. And then, seriously, there was a moment where when London got cancelled and we didn't really know how this virus was going to behave, I was sat there thinking, I think I might be done, I think this might be it for me. I mean, I was really, really down, obviously.
Wow.
And then I looked back and was like, if that's the last one, if that was my last experience on the road, then what a way to go out. Of course, I wouldn't want that, but it was such an incredible experience where, I don't know if you saw where they brought Felder out to this ceremony and the guys were, that they had this whole thing and it was just so intense. I've never known anything like it. So it was one of the most incredible trips I've ever had. And I'm thankful to say that wasn't it. But unfortunately for me, it has, it did feel in my little tiny mind that it could have been. And we would have been left, what would I have done then?
Well, what is that? We've talked about your journey and how, you work in the family business as well as a carpenter, right? Is that the correct?
Electrician,
excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah, when the carpenters go back to school and stuff, they might become an electrician.
I apologize. But to face that, I mean, everyone faced uncertain times and whatnot, but like to think for a moment, this could be it for me. What was that like for you?
Really bad, because I still don't think that I've ever had a smooth run.
Yeah,
but a good pattern of events, the preparation being clear, all things being equal. It just hasn't been like that. And to be honest, Ariel, we're probably not a dissimilar age. I think we've learned over the years that life is imperfect. We have to accept, and things are just different for different people depending on where they are in the world and their own individual setup. So. I've learned many lessons over the last few years, and I'm a much more rounded human being for it. And if that was the end, that was the end. I would move on. I have to support my family. But I think broadcasting, I've done enough now in broadcasting where that would be where I would kick on. But I don't want it to be anywhere else than with the UFC, truth be told.
Just curious, was there any part of you that thought maybe I moved to the US and I'll have more opportunities? Have you ever had that conversation?
Yeah. I've spoken about it a bunch. People often say to me about calling US cards, and it's the visa issue. And I looked at it again recently, had a word with a lawyer, and it was about an 18-month wait. It's a 5-figure sum for people that kind of, so it's not to be sniffed, like it's a big amount of money. And sadly, over in the UK, this is going to kind of sound a little bit arrogant. I don't want it to come across that way, but you need to be an award-winning journalist, right? And I'm not saying that I should be like an award-winning journalist, but our sport is just not recognized in the UK. It really isn't. And the guys who run these big networks like Sky and BT Sport, ITV Sports, etc., I don't think they have a clue who I am and who any of the producers are, and just the complexity of the broadcast, the type of numbers that we do. And that's sad for me, really, because I think it does hold me back from being offered other opportunities and certainly being in a conversation, because then that will hold me back getting a visa, because I'm not being pulled into these award shows in the UK for my peers, my broadcasting peers, if you like. And I reckon that we put out in the UFC, we put out as good a sports broadcast as any other sports out there in the world.
So I'm clear, like you couldn't even do a Vegas card because of the visa stuff? You couldn't even do like a one shot?
No.
Wow.
No.
Dang.
No, it's a frustration. And, I've wrestled with my wife over the idea of moving stateside, and the political situation that had gone on there over the last few years and the way it was reported in the UK, it didn't paint things very favorably. So my wife was like, I would move. Honestly, I would move.
Yeah.
My wife was like, no. So we'll see. It's never been presented to me by the UFC. So maybe down the line, who knows?
All the more reason. I've been sort of on this kick lately because of this event, and even seeing the other promotions, like when Bellator goes to Dublin, it's like, why don't we have more events in the UK? Enough of these small like there needs to be one every 4 months, in my opinion. There's enough talent now in the UFC. There's enough big names. There's enough venues across the UK alone. Forget about Ireland and the rest of Europe where they could do this. Do you think we're moving back to that point? Because remember, there was a point back in the day with Gary Cook and everything where there was a push to do multiple in a year. Maybe not 4, but I really think they could do it. What do you think?
Well, I think we were heading for 5 or 6 in Europe. So the office is an EMEA office, so they have a responsibility to the whole region. And, that you might get the odd one inserted in, like the pay-per-view we had in Manchester for Bisping. The problem is, you're saying they have all of these arenas, but do we? Like the Echo Arena in Liverpool, they use that for Cage Warriors. And now you're saying use that for the UFC. Yeah, they could use it for the UFC and now pack it, but it's not big enough. And I would imagine that the amount of money that would be generated would pale into insignificance compared to what they did on the weekend at London's O2. So I know that there's a bigger arena being opened up in Manchester in the next couple of years. I mean, it's not now, but down the line, that might help us. And I can only see UK MMA growing. Manchester does have a good arena right now, I think, that would work. And then if they're going to do it, maybe Glasgow or Belfast, something like that. So I don't know, but we have to look at the rest of Europe as well, where there are significant arenas to make this work. And certainly people will travel far and wide, I think, after the time that we've had to attend these events. So fingers crossed. I don't think it's going to be in the first half of the year. I'm kind of banking on it being on the second half of the year, because the books have not balanced very well over the last couple of years. And I need to now, I need to get back on the horse. and earn some money. Do you know what I mean? It's been a barren period, and essentially this is how I now make my money. It's no longer a hobby for me as much as I love it.
So you're no longer working as an electrician as well?
No, I couldn't do that. No, I think there was a crossover for about 18 months. I kept the phone call with my dad, more like his kind of counselor, because I would understand everything that he would go through on a daily basis. But no, I kind of cut ties. I think in order to really, and this goes for anyone who's looking to kick on in a new career, I would never say cut the safety net straight out the door when you have the ambition. You need to have things in place, but there is a certain point where you also need to cut the cord, because you're going to be held back and you're not going to fully commit. And I think I was in that place, and then I then cut the cord and thought, right, well, I'm all in now. Like, if it's not the UFC, it has to be something else, somewhere else. So yeah, I've definitely improved as a business person within the broadcasting space since I went 100% into broadcasting.
And by the way, lest we forget, Thompson Till was at the Echo Arena, so it's not the craziest thought to go back there.
No, it's no, but I think, I don't know, they would have done the financials on that by now and things like that. I just think that we need bigger
Sure.
venues. And I'm not sure that the Anfield idea is going to sell Dana White. It doesn't sound like he likes the stadium thing by listening to his post-fight presser. So we'll see. But European spots is what we're after.
Sure. It feels like every week I'm watching a DAZN card promoted by Eddie Hearn, and it's in some stadium, some arena in the UK, and the crowds are incredible, and I would just love to see more of that. Alas, I know I'm preaching to the choir. What was your favorite moment from Saturday? You can pick from, 9 of them, but was there one that stood out for you?
It's really, really hard. I actually messaged Paul Craig, and I'll share this with you guys, but when we have these conversations, and you're doing the same stuff that I am, but you're doing it outwardly, Ariel, which is a much more difficult thing to do, by the way, than having a private chinwag with an athlete. And Paul told me that he wanted his 2 girls to go to school on the Monday being proud of their dad's performance. And there was a real moment in the broadcast where I brought that out, and I think I name-checked his kids and said, now you can be proud of your daddy's performance when you go to school on Monday. I got really choked up, like emotionally really choked. Being a dad, you know what that's like. And when Paul was telling me, I was like, Jesus, everything we do is a reflection, on our children as well. So that was one moment in a slightly different way. Molly's knockout was just insane. I never saw that happening.
Right.
Like Molly is a rugged fighter, skillful boxer, but I didn't see her with that kind of dynamic spinning back fist, like the most crazy knockout, one of the most crazy knockouts we've ever seen in women's mixed martial arts. That was a moment. Arnold Allen turning back the clock to when I used to see him as a teenager, where he was very raw and he just used to go like hell for leather. And it was a bit reckless back in the day, but there were elements of that animalistic element that he has about him where he wasn't so measured and he just let it go, and it worked for him because obviously he can layer that with all the skill and the fight IQ these days. So there's just a couple of moments there. Tom Aspinall was someone I spent a lot of time with since December. I was very proud to see him perform the way he did. I've struck up a good friendship with his dad as well. And I know what it means to the Aspinall family, because it is a family business for them. And just a wow. It really was just a wow. Just so proud of everyone in the building, the fans as well, because they played their part, and it couldn't have gotten any better. It really couldn't.
Of all the UK fighters on that card, who have you known the longest? Is it Arnold?
I think so, yeah. I think I've known Arnold since he was... I think I've known Arnold longer. I think I got to know Corey younger. So I think I went down to see Arnold, and I'm not sure if he was there. I trained at BKK Fighters once in the past, because I know a bunch of those guys. Jack Mason, his coach and manager, is an absolute legend over in these parts. And Sean Carter, one of his closest teammates, a black belt now. He's a proper geezer. So I went down there, trained with those guys, and I actually trained with Corey when she was a teenager. Wow. And she's always had like serious attitude. Like she'd try and take your head off all the way back then. She called me out after one of our opponents missed weight at a Cage Warriors show. She had no fight. And she's like, she looked me up and down. She said, "You look about my size." She says, "I'll fight you." Love that.
That's amazing.
But yes, I think to answer your question, I think Arnold's probably the guy that I've known the longest.
It's not quite Conor Mania, but I'm getting it a little bit. People texting me like, is this Paddy guy for real? I love this Paddy guy. Like, that something is happening when like the non-MMA friends reach out. Are you getting that as well?
Yeah, and I mean, full respect when I say this, and I think I might have even said this to Paul Rimmer, his coach, like I didn't quite understand it at first. And I went down to Liverpool and I spent a couple of days down there with Paddy. It's the first time I've properly interacted with him on his terms rather than seeing him at a Fishgold fight or a Molly fight, something like that. And I think what he's done very well is he's captured the imagination and the support and the love of his closest people, Liverpool. And again, if we're talking about like spreading knowledge and wisdom, like don't think too far away from the epicenter of where you're from. Like, make that work first, and then it gradually builds. If you try and make it in the States before you, I don't know. I just think the way that he's done it, very honestly, locally to where he is, and he's grown this groundswell has just been incredible. And then it's just gone on and on and on. And we're in this situation where Conor laid the foundation, and we were hungry for someone like him, a trailblazer like him. So I'm not sure that Paddy would have had the impact he has done without Conor. Again, I don't mean to be disrespectful, it's just my analysis on that one. But I love how natural Paddy is. On camera, off camera, same guy. No filter, funny, captivating, risk taker. He takes his fans on a massive roller coaster if you've been watching him over the years. And people are like, is he the real deal? And I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, because here's the evidence. And I'm all about it. I like it. I want to see more.
So you mentioned Fight Pass, and the stuff that you're doing there is great. You did a sit down with Paddy. Tell us about what you're doing there and where people can find it.
Yes, thank you, Ariel. I really appreciate that. So I've done a bunch of stuff which is going out. I do a show for every event called Eurowatch, where I spotlight European fighters that are coming up. I try and pick a different one. So it's not just English speaking. It could be someone from, Poland or Romania, something like that. I really enjoy doing that. And they're only short, and they're shared on social media. So please check those out. I've done a series called Coach Dad, which I'd love your opinion on, Ariel. So I spoke with Wonderboy's dad, Jack Shaw's dad, Tom Aspinall's dad, and Nathaniel Wood's dad, and asked them about what it's like to be the dad of a fighter, but also their coach, because they've got a dual role.
Yeah.
It's a very unique perspective. And I spoke with them all at length, but I put it into 4 episodes and asked one question, got 4 answers. And it's really interesting to see how Wonderboy's dad is similar to Aspinall's dad, but very different to Jack Shaw's dad. So I found that was quite interesting. And I've also got my new series called Up Close, where I'm doing documentary features. We spoke about it when you were back at ESPN, where I wanted to go out and spend time in the homes and gyms of fighters, getting to know them a bit better. And I've managed to do that now. So I've got one with Aspinall, which is up, Muhammad Makayev, which I urge people to see because he's going to be a bright new star. And I've got one with Hamzat Chimaev that will drop fight week for his fight. So
amazing. There's
a few things that I've got turning. And Fight Day Focus is a new show that we've just supercharged. It looked beautiful last week. So thank you to the UFC Europe team for making that happen as well.
So you're smashing it, John. I mean, I know you're not doing play-by-play, but you're busy. You're very busy.
No. Honestly, I've worked really hard to make this happen. I was trying to beat down the door and Fight Pass for years. Dan Hardy and I, my daughter's singing now.
I love it.
We were both trying to do it, and I finally got there. In July last year, we finally got there, and I'm so grateful. That saved my bacon last year. That deal. I think I would have had to have. I honestly think I would have had to have sold my home and moved on if it wasn't for that deal. So. Yeah, it's been rough, man. It's been rough, and yeah.
Not for her.
I love her. She makes everything better.
This energy. I love it. No, listen, let her do her thing. It reminds me of my daughter as well. It's a beautiful thing. Last thing, when were we going to see you do play-by-play again? Do you know yet, or TBD?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
No, I haven't got anything cleared. I'm hoping to get out before, the second half of the year. Sorry, before the second half of the year. So in the summertime. But nothing's in the book.
Okay. For now, though, we have the Instagram right up there, Twitter as well, same name. Go check it out. All the stuff that you're doing, I enjoy it. UFC Europe does a great job of, highlighting your content. You're doing fine work, and it was so nice at the beginning there. I tweeted as well. Anytime the UFC is in Europe, you should be the guy. You need to be the guy. And Europe or not, I want to see more of it. I don't care if it's Vegas. I don't care if it's Canada. It's a real pleasure to listen to you work. You have a passion. You're a pro. You're just a great broadcaster. So we're big fans over here, and I appreciate your support over the years as well. You're not in the bath this time. We haven't seen the bath emoji a lot lately, so I don't know if we're on bad terms. But I know you're busy, so it's all
I don't
good.
get to bath with this little one around anymore. That doesn't happen, and it's a bit too intimate going in the shower with me, Ariel.
That's true. That's true.
But I'm listening.
Okay,
I'm listening.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate
Thank you for fighting the good fights.
Amen. And enjoy Spain. And I hope that your wife is able to join you very shortly.
Yeah. Yes, thank you very much.
All right, talk to you soon. There he is, John Gooden, the voice of the UFC UK team, does a fantastic job, has been covering the sport for so many years, a real pros pro, and love having him on. So that was great.